Education Zone, and today we will be dealing in our economics class. We'll be dealing with an important subject, an important topic known as supply. Now, without wasting much time, let's delve into the business. Now, what is supply? Supply is basically known as the amount of a product or a consumer product that the seller or the producer is willing and able to offer for sale at a particular price and at a particular period of time. So let me repeat myself. Supply is the amount of a product that the seller or the producer is willing and able to offer for sale at a particular time and at a particular period of time. So now, when I go to a shop and I want to buy biscuits, and the person selling the biscuits or the retailer has 5 pieces of biscuits, now that is our supply because he has 5 pieces of biscuits. Now, if the supply exceeds the demand, then there's kind of like excess supply. But if the supply is lower than demand, there's kind of exigency. There's kind of like a less supply, and so that will increase the demand for the product. Now, basically, in the previous video, I've explained the fact that demand is related to supply. I've talked about demand in a previous video. You can check that video in this same channel. So, but moving on, we have different types of supply. We have individual and market supply. But before that, let's talk about the fact that supply has laws. So there are what we call laws of supply. So there are 2 laws of supply. The first law of supply states that all things being equal, the quantity of a good supplied that the producer or a seller is willing and able to supply at a particular period of time increases with the amount of the amount. So basically, the law of supply says that all things being equal, the higher the price, the higher the quantity of commodity that we supply. So basically, when the price of the commodity is high, the amount that the seller or producer will be willing to offer for sale will be high also. So what that means is that if the price of garri increases from 14 naira to 15 naira, then the people selling garri will be more willing to offer more of their garri for sale because they know that they will gain more. So that is one rational law of supply. So let's talk about supply schedules. So supply schedule is basically a table showing the supply. So basically, if I have a table of supply, supply schedule is basically a relationship between supply and price. So if I have a supply and price table, you will notice that when the garri is 14 naira, the seller is able to supply 10 congos, and the congo is a unit of measurement of material and commodities in West Africa and Nigeria specifically. So now, but if the garri increases to 15 naira, the supply will be more willing to supply 15 pieces. So, and the slope of the supply curve is also positive. So the slope, basically, if you don't understand what slope means, there's another video in this channel which I talk about slope and gradient. You can check that out. But the slope of the curve, which is positive, always goes upwards. So when the curve goes upwards, it's called a positive slope. So and that means that as the price increases, the supply also increases with it. So basically, individual and market supply are 2 different classes of supply. But individual supply is kind of supply that has to do with an individual's needs. So, but a market supply has to do with the supply of different individuals and different areas of a region. So next, talk about the laws governing supply. So there are factors affecting supply, and one principal factor affecting supply is the price. So the higher the price of the commodity, the higher the supplier or the seller is willing and able to offer for sale. Next, talk about the level of technology. So when the level of technology is high, that is when there's an infrastructure in place for them to produce more of those goods efficiently, then the supply will also increase. So the supply is directly proportional to the level of technology. Then we have cost of production. So if the cost of production increases, the producer tends to produce more of the commodity. So once the cost of production increases, the producer tends to produce less of the commodity. So if the cost of flour rises, then the people making donuts and chin-chin and other confectionaries will also reduce their supply of those products. Now let's talk about the government policy. So these are the factors affecting supply. Government policy, which says that if government gives subsidy to farmers and the farmers can be able to buy machines for their farm work, that means these farmers will be able to produce more products, and as a result, they will be able to produce more raw materials for our consumer goods, and that will increase the supply. So an increase in government subsidy and government intervention or government policy will increase supply. Let's talk about weather. When the weather is bad and transportation is not able to work efficiently, so there will be poor communication and transportation of goods from one region to another, so there will be a reduction in supply of those goods. So next, talk about taxation. So as increase in taxation occurs, the price of a substance or a good increase. So as taxation increases, the amount of the thing gained by the producer or the seller reduces. So as taxation increases, supply reduces. So now let's talk about price of other commodities, number of producers, and natural disasters. So there are an infinite number of factors affecting supply, but in a summary, to recap what I've been trying to say in this video, supply is basically the amount of goods and services or commodities that a seller or a producer is willing and able to produce and able to launch out to the general public to buy, and that supply is directly proportional to the price of the commodity. Thanks for watching.